Thanks for taking the time, Coach. We'll get started with Jeff and then Dave Zingaro.
Jim, what happened on the blown coverage on the first touchdown to Logan Thomas?
Exactly that. It was blown coverage, and you've known me long enough that I don't assign blame in the media. That's a defensive breakdown, and all defensive breakdowns go to the defensive coordinator. They put a lot of layers onto our calls with jet motions and all those different things, which really forced a lot of quick, precise communication. And I was really pleased for the most part in the game with how we handled that, with the big exception of that one play. And that was a critical play in the game, 3rd down and 3. We got a chance to hold them to a field goal there after the offensive turnover, maybe go in with a 17-3 lead at the half and end up giving up that touchdown. You know, that was one of a handful of plays in this game that we'd really like to have back, whether it's a dropped interception or, miscommunication. And, the way those go, I mean, you can be 95%, which in pretty much any grading sheet is an A, but that one error at a critical time can be the difference between a win or a loss. And that's sort of the edge that we had to play with in that game. But, whether it was a 3rd down and 8 play, when Snake almost got that ball and the guy was able to fall back for a 1st down, or 4th and 1 in the red zone where we just a quarter of a second too late triggering and they gained 1.5 yards. All those plays made a difference in this game. And, that's a play we can't allow to happen in the future.
If I could just follow up real quick, with the communication, you did say for the most part it was pretty good. Have you found that obviously new faces in the secondary and then the absence of Malcolm, has that been an adjustment for you, and has that made it any more difficult to make sure the communication has been right?
Well, yeah, I mean, we don't have Malcolm doesn't play here anymore, so we can't judge anything on how he would have done in those situations. We have our guys this year, and there's no, you don't get graded on the curve because you got new guys out there, or it's the first game of the season, or anything else. Like I said, a lot of times you're pleased, you're whatever 19 out of 20 on those plays, and you're feeling good. But that one play is the critical play. And, and red zone play, traditionally over the last 4 years, we've been a really good red zone team. And part of that comes from never making a mistake. And, we made a mistake on that play, and we'll learn from it. We paid a dear price for it.
Go ahead, Dave, and then Jimmy.
Hey, Jim, with the injuries at defensive end right now, how much are you guys going to have to rely on Josh Sweat, and how ready for that expanded role is he right now?
You guys saw him in training camp. He's one of our most improved players. I thought Vinny was playing really well in this game, and the combination with those guys, keeping a good rotation, trying to keep all those guys fresh, was working out pretty well. And Sweat was able to come in on some 3rd downs and be fresh and look speedy and explosive. I mean, it was a hot game, and, there were a couple times we were back on the field after one play, and it was important to stay fresh in that game. We have other guys, we'll see where all those guys get to. I mean, it's only Monday as far as injuries go. So, we'll see how those guys go. We'll see where our guys that missed this last game trend. And, we'll have a good plan come Sunday.
Go ahead, Jimmy, and then John.
Hey, Jim. You skipped a year last year playing this Rams team. How are they different from what you've seen so far of them compared to when you faced them in 2017 and 2018?
Yeah, they made some adjustments 18 after we played them. I thought we did a pretty good job against some of the things that they were doing. And, we borrowed a little bit of stuff that the Lions were doing, some of the stuff that we had success for in our Super Bowl, or success with in our Super Bowl year. Patriots laid down some pretty good stuff in the Super Bowl. And what the Rams do, just like any good team, they made adjustments to that. So we really didn't see those things last year, like you referenced. We didn't play them. So seeing those things now we have to take another step. We just can't stay the same. Just because what we did might have been successful 3 years ago or 2 years ago doesn't mean it's going to be successful now. So They took some steps. They expanded their, I don't know, their options a little bit more in some of their run and pass game. And we're going to have to make some adjustments based off of that. No different than any team, probably a little bit more high profile. And then, like you said, you didn't play them for a whole year. So it's probably a little bit more noticeable than if you had just played them 4 weeks ago or, half a season ago.
John and then Paul.
Hey, Jim, to kind of follow up on that, when you talk about Sean McVay's offense, a lot of movement, a lot of eyewash and things like that. You just talked about the communication issues. Do you have to emphasize that more this week? Does that differ when you have a coach like that?
No, for sure. I mean, what we saw from Washington was, what was a lot of that kind of stuff. But when you're talking about the Rams, you're really talking about the OG team as far as doing that kind of stuff. And again, that's one of those things. You play perfect 9 out of 10 times. That 10th play can be a difference maker. So it's something we've played or we've dealt with for since that stuff's been around. Really going back to Washington in 2016, we started seeing a lot of that stuff with Sean. And there's been some other stuff, really some wildcat type stuff way back in the early 2000s that had some of that similar type motion. It's nothing that we haven't dealt with. It's just that the number of times they bring it, it just keeps the pressure on the defense, and it's up to us to respond to that. And we have to be able to play lights out, mistake-free football.
Paul and then Ruben.
Yeah, Jim, how helpful both to him and the rest of the corners is Roby Coleman's familiarity with their receivers, particularly Cooper Kupp?
Yeah, it's a guy they practiced against. I think probably his familiarity sort of goes out the window after training camp because they're probably working, different sides of the equation. But certainly he knows, not just Cooper, but Woods and, Reynolds and all those guys. And, that information, will be helpful. Just little tips on, how they like to run a certain route or, different things like that. I wouldn't make too big a deal of it. But, there might be a few things here and there that we can pick up from it.
Ruben and then Kristen.
Hey, Jim, Rams ran the ball 40 times the other day. Do you anticipate that, that you're going to face something like that again? And how did you feel your linebackers, on a related note, how did you feel like your backers played Sunday, and how do you feel about that matchup?
Yeah, our backers in general, I thought we did a pretty good job against the run last week. I don't even know what day it is, a couple days ago, whatever it is. But we did allow one run to squirt through us for about 20. And again, a little bit like all that other stuff, maybe that didn't go as noticed because it wasn't in the red zone. But, we did a good job. There was a lot of stuff to try to handle, different running backs flying different directions and everything. Thought those guys did a good job along with our safeties of fitting all that stuff. I was also happy with our tackling. We talk about the first time live tackling. For the most part, I thought we tackled pretty well in that game. We didn't miss very often, and if we did, we had a lot of guys there to clean it up. So I thought that sort of showed through in the run game. We lost one on a quarterback scramble for about 20. And those were sort of the plays. But as a group, I thought they did some good things. And again, that wasn't an easy opener as far as complexity of scheme and what the offense presents, and it's going to be no different this week. And what was the first part of that question?
Just about the Rams running game. They ran it 40 times.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think a lot of that just depends on us. If we're doing a good job, they're committed to the run. I think they always have been, going back with Todd Gurley, and they just leaned on him. They have a different cast of characters now, but it really hasn't changed their philosophy. If you don't stop the run, they're going to keep on running it. And they controlled that game on Sunday, with about 150 yards rushing and all those attempts. So I think a lot of that is in our hands. They're going to stay committed, but how committed they are is really going to depend on how well we're doing against it. And if we're doing a good job on that, and we're also doing a good job of in conjunction with that, not giving up big plays down the field, because it's easy to sell out on the run, but at what expense? You know, I mean, do you give up big plays down the field as a result? Well, that's not a good formula either. So we have to balance both of those. But if we're doing a good job stopping the run, I think that can sort of change their opinion of it a little bit.
Kristen and then Les.
Hey, Jim, curious what you've seen from Jared Goff and his evolution. Again, you haven't seen this Rams team for a year and a half at this point, but what you've seen from him now and how he's kind of grown up since you've last faced him.
Yeah, one of the things I'd probably say that really stood out, more when we started watching him was his increased mobility. They're using a lot more bootleg passes, and he's not just easing into those. Sort of in years past, he was sort of, he would run the boot, but he was really just sort of buying time to find guys that were open. Now, he's getting that ball in the boot, and he is sprinting full speed and really putting a lot of pressure on the width of your defense. So I think that's probably the biggest change. He's an outstanding play action passer, always has been. That's been a big thing for him. He really executes those fakes really well. It makes it difficult on the defense if they're looking at the wrong thing, because if they look at him, you're not going to be able to tell the difference between run, boot, and play action. So I think he has, a little bit like we talked about, their scheme taking a little bit of step in the last calendar year or so. He's certainly added to his game, and I think that mobility, he's not afraid to scramble. He's hard to hit because he'll just slide and get down, doesn't subject himself to a lot of hits. But his mobility is an added thing that sort of puts pressure on the defense.
Les and then Bo.
Hi, Jim. Getting back to the red zone, which you mentioned, it was an odd game Sunday in that Washington never drove the length of the field on you, but went 3 for 4 in the red zone, and that's very unusual, obviously, for your defense. What happened there? Why was that such a problem?
Well, I mean, it was four times we gave up 3 for 4. We talked about the one. We have a 3rd and 3. We make that stop. They're probably kicking a field goal, probably taking the points. Now you're talking about 50%. We had a 4th and 1 opportunity to make, and so if we make that, which we're close, but close doesn't win you. Close doesn't make a difference. It's a binary outcome, win or lose, and we didn't win that. I think you're right. We have traditionally been a good red zone defense, but just because we have over the last 4 years doesn't mean that's where we are right now. So we have some work to do, and that's always been a big goal for us, holding teams to field goal attempts in the red zone. And if we can do a better job of that, that'll take us a long way this year.
Thank you.
We have time for a couple more. So Bo, Zach, and then Ed.
Hey, Jim, you played a lot of guys on defense on Sunday beyond just the defensive line rotation. Was that a plan going in because of the lack of preseason, keeping guys fresh, or is that what you expect from the defense moving forward?
Well, we did have one situation where one of our linebackers was cramping on the sideline, and we had to go to replacement there. We also had some 4 linebacker packages, so that was more game plan and/or sort of an injury situation that we went to there. But as far as our nickel and dime, we had 4 different groups in the back end. As far as personnel groups with different guys, like, whether it was Epsy or whether it was Strap, Cravon, or whether it was Roby. So you saw some different things there, and that was more just game plan oriented than trying to keep guys fresh or, doing any of that stuff.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Zach and Ed.
Hey, Jim, it was your first time seeing Slay in your system. How do you think he did?
Yeah, there's probably one play he'd like to have back. That slant and, missed tackle there. But, when he was in coverage on 17, I think he allowed 2 completions for about 28 yards or 26 yards. So we put a lot of pressure on him. We were probably about, of our 60-some plays in this game, we were about 50 plays man-to-man, which is not something that we've done in the past. And most of those plays, he was on him. Some of the other completions that McLaren got were either zone or, a different side or something like that. But he matched him most of the game. Got a little bit sort of little slow to match on the red zone play that he gave up that one on. I just wanted to make sure that the linebacker was clear underneath of him. But, we had that one turnover, and right away I blitzed because I didn't want the offense to hold the ball long to try to take a shot at the end zone. Well, the other side of that is, you blitz and they throw quick, you got to be able to make the tackle. So that's probably the only one. I thought did some really good things. We put a lot of pressure on him. We all our corners, playing that much man-to-man, put a lot of pressure on those guys and didn't give up a lot of big plays down the field, which I thought was encouraging. Doesn't change the result. Like I said, it's a binary game. You don't get any bonus points for how one individual played or how one group played. But I was pleased with what he was able to do with some tough duty.
We'll wrap it up with Ed.
Hey, hi, Jim. Getting back to Josh Sweat, where have you seen his biggest strides from, rookie year to last year and now to this year?
Just consistency of what he's doing. And I think it was regarding Josh that I threw that baseball analogy, the pitcher, the repeatable motion. And you guys know I have a lot of baseball analogies, but I think that's right on. Those guys that their motion looks different all the time. They can have a great pitch and then all of a sudden throw 4 balls and they can walk the bases loaded because just don't know what you're getting. Well, I think Josh has really taken that to heart. I think that Coach Burke and Coach Washburn and Coach Ollie have really emphasized that kind of stuff, that repeatable motion, the consistency of their stance and get off and those things. And it's really shown through for him. He's always had a lot of ability, but like a lot of other players, he just needed to refine his game a little bit more. I think he's going to be a big contributor for us this year.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks, everybody.
All right, guys.